Okay, thank you for beginning the recording. Um, I am Teresa Madrid, the Director of Programs with Office for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. The Enlace team is under the organization of Office for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, which is why this is a good solution to automate payroll. So what I'm going to show today is a dashboard, which is basically, you can think of it as a home page. And on that dashboard will be the link where you can submit your 2R payroll. If you don't know the reference to 2R, it is basically this definition of the bi-weekly payroll, as well as the 5R payroll. And 5R translates to monthly payroll. So if you don't know which one you are, I think everybody should know. If you're staff, you're 5R. If you're student or non-exempt staff, you're 2R. You can ask your supervisor if you're not entirely sure which one refers to you. The dashboard is on a program called Smart Sheets. So I'm going to walk through the dashboard, how to submit payroll. And then at the end, I will share the link for everybody to the dashboard, and then talk about a few tips on how to submit things pretty easily. Even so far as adding an app to your phone if you choose to. So I'm going to do a screen share. You do not have to create a username or a login to Smartsheets in order to do this. There should be no reason for you to do that. Unless you're doing other projects in Smartsheets with the office, there's no reason for you to have to log in. And so I will say, if you hit a barrier and it's forcing you to log in or asking for a password or whatever, you can reach out to myself or somebody on the Enlace team to help solve that problem. Okay, so again, I'll share this link at the end of today, and everyone will use the same link every time. So if you lose the link, if you can't remember what the link is, just know that everyone's going to have the same link to get to this dashboard. If you don't know how to bookmark a link, I suggest you do that. So you can see at the top of my screen here, I have bookmarks, and it's as simple as, clicking the bookmark to go directly to the link that I have saved. So for example, this is my email. This is my Smart Sheet. So if you don't already do that, I suggest you do that. Okay, so you're going to get the link. It's going to bring you to this dashboard or landing page, home page, whatever you want to call it. You will see it literally says Enlace New Mexico. There's another landing page for the Office for Diversity program team. So I just want to make it clear that there are more than one dashboards, and just make sure yours says Enlace. There shouldn't be any problem if you're using the link. Each person will choose the payroll that they're entering by simply clicking here, biweekly payroll or monthly payroll. If you don't know the payroll timeline, you can click this picture here, and it's just going to bring you to UNM's payroll timeline. So again, biweekly is 2R. This is the schedule for 2021. When we get into the new year, I'll upload the schedule for 2022. And then on the right here is 5R. So that's on this dashboard. That way it's easy access. You can also look for the payroll schedule by searching it on UNM's webpage. So if you are a 2R biweekly payroll person, or biweekly timesheet person, you should still use the timesheet that you currently use to fill in your hours. So that's the regular paper form that everybody fills in their weekly hours for. That's something you consistently have done. This mechanism is only a way to turn it into your supervisor. It allows your supervisor to see it, sign it, approve it, and then it allows the time entry person to enter the time into the system. It helps to minimize the number of emails that you have to send to get your timesheet to the right person to get entered. So You're going to get your timesheet like you already do right now. You're going to fill in the hours that you worked, and especially for the students who get it approved by a site supervisor, you're going to make sure and get that approved by your site supervisor. And you're going to have that copy. You want to save it as a PDF, and you're going to come here to enter it. So select 2R. You're going to enter your name, and I'm just going to do a test while we're in here. I'm going to do my first and last name. It just makes it easier. And I'm going to add the word test for this purpose. I'm going to enter my email address. And my supervisor's name. So here's what's important is by adding your supervisor's name here, this email with your timesheet in it is going to go to your supervisor. So you want to be sure that you're selecting the correct person. For this example, I'm going to choose Rosemary, and it'll send her an email. If your supervisor is not listed here, I can add the supervisor. So just know that that is very easy to do. Or you can type in their email address. Then it is your responsibility to select the correct pay period that you're submitting for. So for example, right now we are entering the pay period, or the next one's going to be for October 9th through the 22nd. So I'm just going to select that because that's the pay period I want to submit. And then the instructions are here. You're going to save your timesheet as a PDF. It's really important that it's a PDF because that's going to be what makes the process much easier for the person to enter time. And I'll show you why. We would like for you to name your PDF using this naming mechanism. So just last name underscore first name underscore pay period. And remember, the pay period is this, 22, for example. You can just put 22 after the underscore. So here's an example right here. You're going to find your file. So I'm going to minimize my screen here and just drop a file in here. You can just grab a file from your desktop and you can drop it in. I'm just choosing a random PDF for my desktop. Or you can select Browse Files. And this literally will open your folders and files from your computer, and then you can select your PDF. So I'm just going to select a random PDF to just show you why it's important to put a PDF in here. Sorry, I'm going to select a random spreadsheet. That way you can see the difference between a spreadsheet and a PDF and why we're asking for that. You could enter notes here. So if you enter a note, it's going to be visible by people other than your supervisor. And that's because there's more than one person entering this or looking at this information to enter time. So if you have a note that you don't want anyone to see because you have a question for your supervisor or something to address with your supervisor, don't put it here. However, if you have something that you just want to note on your timesheet, for example, sometimes 2R people who are entering time for 2R want to make it clear that you're using comp time and not overtime, things like that that are unique to your timesheet situation. Okay, and then if you choose, you can choose to get an email when your supervisor has signed off on your timesheet. So if you're choosing that, you click here. Finally, the important thing about this process is your signature on the timesheet. So it's formally saying, I'm submitting my timesheet to my supervisor. I'm saying my time on this timesheet is accurate, and I'm submitting it to my supervisor to get approved and entered into time. So for student employees who are at the sites and their time is getting reviewed by a site supervisor, you'll have already agreed on those hours that were worked. This is a signature that Dr. Gomez Chavez, Dr. Roy Ball, or Rosemary have been approving at their level. So this check mark is your signature. You can choose to get a copy of your response. And if you do that, you do have to enter your email here so that way Smartsheets knows to send you this and you submit it. It's not, that was a lot of talking, but it's really not a lot of information. So I'm going to go back into it just to show everybody the screen and see if there's any questions. And then I'll just show one other minor thing at the end. Okay, so any questions? Okay, I am not seeing any questions. So just for courtesy, I want to show why it's really important to upload a PDF and not an Excel sheet. So the reason that I really, oh, excuse me, I am going to open it up so I can show you all what's, show you all why it's important. The reason why it is important to the time entry person to get a PDF and not an Excel spreadsheet is simply because Smartsheets forces you to download an Excel, but not a PDF if I want to look at it. So I'm just going to look at these records for the purpose of sake of just displaying or giving an example. So here's an example of someone who turned in a timesheet as an Excel. If I'm the time entry person and I have to enter Jose's time, I'm gonna have to click on this and it's gonna download a copy to my desktop and I have to open it and enter. However, if I have a person turn in a timesheet that's a PDF, Smartsheets allows me to just open this PDF and review it. And I'm not going to show that because it is actually someone's real timesheet. But this is so important to save time for the time entry person. It just allows them to go right into the PDF, enter the time, and be done with it rather than having a bunch of downloads onto their desktop. So that is the end of that. Are there any questions about 2R? All right, so I don't see anyone coming off mute, so I'm gonna move on. So again, the link is gonna bring you directly to this homepage. Now, you'll notice that this 2R, it has its own link. So you could technically save this link if you wanted as well. Totally fine. Like I said, Smartsheets actually has a app. So I look at Smartsheets on my cell phone and I'm able to see everything. Probably the more complicated thing is uploading a PDF. So if you're really savvy on your phone and you have your PDF files synced to your cloud or have access to them on your phone, you could easily do this. Otherwise, it's not super ideal on your cell phone, but it is possible. Okay, so that's 2R. So now I'm going to jump over to 5R. So 5R payroll is for monthly exempt employees. Again, if you just click on this picture, you know your 5R payroll schedule right here. And this one is a little more simple because it doesn't require a paper upload or a document upload. 5R employees should work with their supervisor. And I know that, for the Enlace team, you have your own internal systems of checks and balances to determine, your annual leave and your sick leave. This is just to enter your time report for payroll. So I would, Dr. Roybal and Dr. Gomez-Chavez, you might want to talk a little bit about whether this will impact your practices for reporting time off. And I don't know if you want to do that now, but just so you know, this is really just to record what time was taken in the previous month that's going to be entered into payroll. Okay, so for 5R, again, you enter your name, and I'm just going to do the thing. For this one, we prefer you enter your banner ID. because that allows us to enter it as, to have it on the back end on the sheet. Again, you're going to enter your supervisor's name, so you should know who your supervisor is that you're reporting your time to. I'm going to just select, for this purpose, Chantal, just to, that way Chantal is just a test coming to your email. And then you're selecting your payroll. So of course, you're selecting the month that you're entering. So right now it's October. I'm gonna submit my September annual and sick leave personal time off. I'm gonna enter the number of total annual leave hours I took in September. Now these are hours that were already approved and my supervisor already knows I took them off, the days that were agreed upon, etc., based off of your practices. And then sick leave here. So these are the total hours for the whole month. And then any other leave. So of course, as you know, as exempt employees, you have this other type of leave. And so you could put that here if you have those types of hours. Again, there's a comment box that can be viewed by other people. So please be sure not to put private or confidential information here. And then finally, the employee signature. So this is exactly the same. This is your signature indicating that you're turning in your official timesheet for that month. It replaces the need for a paper, wet signature on paper. So by clicking this, I'm agreeing that this is accurate and true to the best of my knowledge as an employee submitting a timesheet. And then you just hit submit, and that's it. And the person doing payroll time entry will have access to basically a spreadsheet that shows time. And so they will be able to literally just go in, see a spreadsheet of everybody's time. I'm going to show a quick screenshot of that, just not that it's super important, but that you'll see that we have everybody's name. We know how much time they took off and what month. And if I'm doing time entry, I'm able to literally just punch that into time entry for each month. And I know what's accurate and has been approved by the supervisor. Okay, what you don't see when you are looking at this page, sorry, let me go back to the home page. So you're entering it here. What you don't see is when you select your supervisor here, this supervisor is gonna get an email with all of this information, including everything you entered in the attachment that you sent in. That supervisor will then be able to select, approve, or deny. If they approve the time, then the person in time entry is going to be able to say, okay, so-and-so, Teresa entered her time for October, and her supervisor, Chantal, approved it. I know I'm entering it into payroll as an approved time. If your supervisor denies it because there's an error or some other reason, then you'll get an email back from Smartsheets that says, your supervisor has denied this line item. Please address it. And then you'll just have to resubmit. So it's automated in the sense that you get an automatic email for the time entry. Are there any questions about that?
Hi, this is Evelyn. So when I enter my 5R forms, do I need to enter my exemption report also as a document on that? Or is that already taken care of?
My understanding, Teresa, is that Evelyn would submit her exception report similar to our employees submitting their timesheets.
Yeah, so I'm gonna, Dr. Gomez-Chavez and Dr. Roybal, you all might want to just decide if this changes or not, but on the team that I work most closely with in the diversity office, we do not do exemption forms anymore. This replaces that practice. I know exactly what you're talking about. We used to do the same exact forms on our team, but this replaces that. And by clicking the box that says this is my employee signature, I'm indicating that that is my time entry that I am saying I worked for that month. And further, your supervisor gets the email saying so-and-so has entered their time. Do you approve or deny this? So it should replace it, but I'm going to refer to Dr. Raybal and Dr. Gomez-Travis for the best practice on your team.
Okay, you know what? I'll add something. What I think will happen is, like in Evelyn's case, because she's exempt, she would submit her leave request form to Jennifer or Lawrence, and they approve it, and I will see that for my records. So I'll compare that to whatever Evelyn submits. And that'll do away with the exception type form.
Okay, thank you, Rose, because I was thinking I was just gonna ask, I'll attach my leave request, so that would that, well, we'll discuss it later. And then my final question is, do our student success ambassadors, mentors, do they select Doctora as their supervisor?
We would
ahead.
like them to enter Rosemary as their supervisor, and Evelyn, Maria, and Bernadette will enter Rosemary as well. We're going to streamline it so that we only have 2 individuals. So Evelyn, Maria, Bernadette, and the mentors will enter Rosemary. Chantel and Rosemary will enter me.
Perfect. And then I'll have all the backup documentation to compare with.
Yep. I just want to show a quick example of when I enter that to our timesheet submission, I automatically get, remember when I selected the box that says, send me a copy of my submission, I automatically get an email that looks like this, and it shows this files that I attached. When I selected the 5R, there's actually a workflow issue in here that I need to fix, but let me show you an example of that. So I'm going to show you an example of this using screen share. So this individual has submitted their time to me. And she selected me as her supervisor. And this is the form that I get as a supervisor. So just know this is what Rosemary will receive. She'll see that for 5R, this person. So Evelyn, that's you, right? You're 5R?
Yes, correct.
Okay, sorry, I'm trying to look at both things. So Evelyn, like for example, Rosemary will see all this information. And if, based off of the practices that you guys determine, she'll click here, literally within the email, and Rosemary will go back in here and select approve or denied, right? And then you'll get an email saying your supervisor has approved this or denied it. Now, if it's denied, it's Rosemary will have to communicate to you why it's denied. Perhaps it doesn't match the leave request or whatever.
Thank you, Teresa.
Mm-hmm. I think the final thing I'll mention is that given that the purpose of this is to streamline timesheet submission to really reduce the amount of emails, but also the amount of work that Rosemary has to do to combine all the files from everybody. You all will have to decide very clearly who needs to sign what before it gets to this point. So it's my understanding that a student, and I'm just going to do a quick screen share for reference, a student might get their timesheet like this all filled out and have to show it to their site supervisor to make sure it's accurate. And then this is the document that they save on their desktop and upload as a PDF attachment. but it doesn't require the extra step of them sending it via email to their supervisor to get approved before they upload it. This actually cuts out that extra step of getting the supervisor's approval from Rosemary via email. Does that make sense?
Yes, Teresa, thank you for mentioning that.
Pardon me, just so I heard it correctly, the site supervisors will not need to approve timesheets then in the system?
Yeah, so it's my understanding that the site supervisor looks at the student's time, right? And that they're the ones who know the hours the student worked at that site. Then the students and the site supervisor agree that that timesheet's correct. And then they were submitting it to, for example, Dr. Gomez Chavez, I believe, via email. And Dr. Gomez Chavez was then approving those timesheets or signing them and then getting them over to Rosemary to upload into payroll. Was that the correct transaction up to this point?
Yes, so now the sequence will be site coordinators review the mentor timesheets first, and then they go through this system and they select Rosemary for final approval. We're taking out one step. So it'll be more efficient so that mentors will have their site coordinators review the timesheets, and then they go through this process for one more review by Rosemary.
So will the site coordinator sign the timesheet for the student? Or sign as a supervisor?
They can initial it.
Okay, that's perfect. That way I'll know it's been reviewed.
Yes, you can look for an initial by Evelyn, Maria, or Bernadette.
That's perfect.
And the student success ambassadors will enter their time after they get the sheet approved. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank
Right,
you so
Teresa?
much.
Yeah, I'm going to refer to you because I don't know the student success ambassadors different from student employees, right? They're the same. They're one and the same.
It's the
They're
same.
one-
Yes.
So we're
Thank
making
you.
it more streamlined, where there's an internal review with the ambassadors or mentors with the site coordinators, and then it goes through this formal process to Rosemary. The only exception are Chantel and Rosemary selecting me as their supervisor.
Perfect.
And so I know we've been on for 30 minutes. There's not anything else to share, but I am happy to stay on and answer questions. I want to, let you know that what I'll do is send this link via email. That way you all have the correct link to share amongst yourself. Make sure, everyone has the same link, everyone has the same information. I will add that in the future, if we continue to streamline some of the processes, for example, request for reimbursement for mileage, we would like to move that to an online process as well, that the link for that would also be on this dashboard or this landing page. And so that's why I want to direct you all to use this landing page to get to the payroll link, because in the future we might have other things linked here to use for other processes. That is all I have.
Thank you so much, Teresa, and everyone. Everyone have a great day.